Fuck, I'm gonna start that over again. We're making calzones, Italian empanadas. One thing I wanted to point out is that I'm making empanadas, which means fucking shit. Fuck! I got this. Third time's the charm. Had a bit of whiskey today. Hello friends, welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be making for you some calzones. This is a recipe I've made multiple times. Each time I think it gets better and better. Making dough has always been kind of intimidating to me. I think with practice and experience you get better and better. Don't be afraid to fail. That's the fun part about cooking, is you just got to try it. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be. So I've got a bunch of different toppings. Some that are conventional, some unconventional, but this is a recipe that I want to be able to make like on a work day. And that's why I'm not going to make marinara from scratch. But the dough from scratch really does make a difference. That's what we're going to do tonight. So let's go ahead and get started. Check. So I'm going to start off by making the dough. The dough is flour, some yeast. This is a little mason jar. I bought a shit ton of yeast because they didn't have the little packets that I wanted, so I bought this big ass thing and I just put it in here. Anyways, some sugar, some olive oil. It's really easy to make, but you first have to let the yeast and the water and the sugar get to know each other. So we'll do that first. Let it sit for like 10 minutes. They call it blooming, just to make sure that the yeast is alive. So I'm gonna show you that process. I'm gonna add a cup and a half of, it's kind of like just above lukewarm water. I follow this channel called Pro Home Cooks, really good channel. His recipe is kind of the riff that I'm going off of. He calls for 3 teaspoons of yeast, but I like a full tablespoon, maybe a little bit more, because I just like the way yeast tastes and it helps your dough rise and all that stuff. Again, I'm trying to make this in a quick fashion, so the more yeast, the faster it's gonna rise. So I'm gonna put a full tablespoon of yeast. I have a weird fucking measuring. This is a half tablespoon. I don't know where I got this, but I have it. This is 1 tablespoon of yeast, and I'm gonna add equal part sugar into my warm water. Then I'm going to stir this together, let the yeast start to eat the sugar. I don't fucking understand the science behind it, but I do know when it's working, and I'll show you what that looks like in about 5 or 10 minutes. It's time for a shot. While you're waiting, you might as well just have a little whiskey. Cheers. All right, so what we're looking for is like activities. You see those bubbles popping up, you've got that kind of dirty water look to it. That tells you that it's alive. If you're not getting those bubbles, or you're not seeing those kind of grouping of the yeast kind of popping up from the bottom, then you know your yeast isn't good. But I'm confident this is good where it's at. I'm gonna go ahead and add in, oh, look at those. See those explosions? I was talking about it. The yeast is moving, it's alive. I'm gonna add in some oil, some flour, and then we're gonna start kneading. We'll go ahead and do that. So the next step is we're gonna add in some whiskey to our belly. Cheers. And then I'm gonna add an 1/8 cup of oil, but that's what the recipe says. I personally like a little bit more oil. I feel like it makes the dough easier to work with and adds a nice flavor because it's olive oil. Blip. Next, I'm gonna add 4 cups of flour. Honestly, from my experience, it's easier to add more flour than it is to add more water. I tend to kind of undercut my 4 cups of flour. Some people might get a butter knife and level these off and whatever, but honestly, dough, you can always add flour to it. It's really easy to work with. I'm using bread flour. I don't know what the fuck bread flour is or what's the difference between all-purpose flour, but from my experience, bread flour tends to make better dough, better bread, better empanadas, or in this case, Italian empanadas. Let's go ahead and start bringing our mixture together. So I'm just going to bring this together with a wooden spoon. It starts to become annoying to stir it, and that's when I turn it out into my work surface where I'm going to knead it all together. All right.
Fun fact, you idiot. The difference between bread flour and all-purpose is bread flour has more protein for the gluten. So it's springier, spongier, better bread.
Oh, I didn't fucking know that. I'm gonna start kneading this, and when you're making dough, you just have to accept that your hands are gonna get super shitty. So I'm gonna clean off this spoon. I've got a little extra flour here to bring it together if I need to, which I almost always do, but this is where you're gonna knead for about 3 to 5 minutes. Kneading is turning the dough over on itself and then pushing it out. You're just kind of creating gluten. Someone smarter than me, maybe Horst, could tell me what the fuck gluten is, but I just know you got to build it up, and it's by stretching it, pulling on itself, pushing it out. My arms are tired for you people. Do the heart method where you're doing left, that's a heart, that's the other half. Here we go. Alexa, you bitch! Set a timer for 5 minutes! No, thanks, whore. Alexa, what the fuck is gluten? I don't even know.
Gluten is a group of seed storage proteins found in certain cereal grains.
Doesn't make sense, bitch. I'm picking up a little bit of flour every now and again because I want it to stay tacky. You want pizza dough to kind of have enough hydration and not get dried out, because the dough, when you let it rise, it gets this weird like crust over the top. And even though it's usable, it just looks unappetizing. So anyways, it's a feel. You want it to be a little sticky. Add a little flour as you roll it out little by little until it feels right. And that just really comes with experience. I've got my pizza dough here. One thing I want to point out is that I'm making pizza dough to make calzones, and I'm going to be rolling out the dough for my calzones. I'm going to be portioning these into 4 portions, and they don't have to be perfect, they just have to be. For a pizza dough, you probably want to round them off a little bit better, more circular. For calzones, it's just whatever. I'm going to let them rise for 4 hours, and then I'm going to roll it out and let a lot of that air out. So I'm going to go ahead and portion these off now. I'm gonna add a little olive oil to this pan and let them rise with kind of a damp towel for 4 hours. So again, they don't have to be super circular, but they do kind of look nice when you do it. I'm just gonna spin them around in this because you do want them to stay moist. If they dry out, I mentioned that crustiness that happens on the outside. So I'm just dunking them a little bit in the olive oil in the pan that they're gonna rise in. Moist is an offensive word, you know? Look, I don't know why moist is offensive for real, because if you think about it, best cakes are moist. Thank you. You're moist. Ah! Oh shit. Thank you. There we are. So I'm just gonna cover these bad boys up, let them rise for about 4 hours, and then we'll start putting together our toppings and make some calzones. Check. I'm gonna prepare my ingredients. You can put whatever you want in there. That's the beautiful thing about pizza and calzones. I'm gonna put probably my favorite toppings, which is all the toppings. Onions, bell peppers, jalapenos, sausage, salami, pepperoni. So I do have a store-bought marinara. Again, this is something I wanna be able to make on a weeknight. So I'm just gonna take store-bought marinara, spice it up a little bit with some fresh black pepper, with some garlic powder, onion powder, chili flakes, and all that jazz. I did want to point this out. Don't put raw veg in your calzone. Just saute it a little bit with some olive oil before you put it in your calzone. That's just going to be better. There's going to be less water release in your calzone, so it creates less steam. It's just something that I've learned from experience, because One of the worst things about calzones when you buy them at a restaurant is there's this huge like air pocket, and you look at this big thing and oh, that's gonna be delicious. It's chock full of ingredients, and then you cut it in half and there's only this much ingredients and this much air in the pocket. It's annoying. So saute your vegetables before you put them in the calzone. Check. Cutting board. A lot of people cut bell peppers a lot of different ways. I find this to be the most effective. Obviously, it's up to your discretion, but what I'll do is I'll cut it straight in half, and then you have this kind of membrane with the seeds, and I just kind of score it a little bit towards the middle, across that membrane, and then just pluck out that middle part and pull it out, pull the seeds and the membrane out, and then I just start pulling it off and then give it a little tap-tap-peroonie. Same thing with the other side. You just kind of score it a little bit, pull out the membrane, pull out the rest of the membrane, tap-tap-peroonie, and we have a clean bell pepper hab. I try to make even pieces so that they cook evenly. So the tops and the bottoms are done. I'm going to take off a little more membrane from the middle. And then watch this. I've got this nice clean middle that's exactly the same size. And that's how I like to chop my bell peppers. Bell pepper done. All right, so I've got my veggies chopped. I bought these pre-sliced mushrooms, delicious. I'm gonna brown this sausage, saute my vegetables, and then we're gonna start composing our calzones. It's gonna be amazing. I need another shot. Give me a shot. Somebody give me a shot. Next step. Take another shot. Cheers. So get both of these. We're just sauteing, chopping up this sausage, making our fillings. Add a little more oil. I'm about to have everything calzone. I'm gonna make some spiced up marinara sauce. It's gonna be amazing. We're gonna add that into our calzone. Next step, shot of whiskey. Cheers. And let's go. We're gonna add a little bit of garlic powder, probably about a teaspoon. Onion powder, probably about a teaspoon. We're gonna add in some basil. Nice. And some chili flake. Boop, boop, boop. Bang. Dough's risen. Ingredients are sauteed. Sauce is sauté. We're just gonna add a little bit of flour as needed, just enough to kind of keep it from sticking to the granite. And then we're gonna start wrapping up our calzones. So let's do it. Oh, look at the house. So I'm gonna add the cheese. I'm gonna add a little bit of marinara. Some people try to like smooth out the marinara. If you glob it, it's gonna disperse. It's totally fine. Again, this is a everything calzone, which is delicious. So I'm just gonna put some pepperonis. Somebody Somebody just tromboned a little turd out of their ass. I like to finish it with a little more cheese, not too much, and a little more marinara. Glob, glob, glob. All right, so I'm just gonna line the edge of this calzone with a little bit of water. It's just water. You notice I left a lot of space at the edge of the dough so that it can help me wrap it and, you know, tuck it in, because you gotta tuck it. When you're serious about something, you gotta tuck it. I rolled up my calzone. It's not perfect, but again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be. So what I'm gonna do right before I toss it into a 500-degree oven is I'm gonna toss a little cornmeal onto some parchment paper. This creates a nice crunch. It really just makes it more tasty. And what I'm gonna do is just lift this off of my workspace. Again, not perfect, but that comes with experience, and that looks okay. All right, so I'm gonna dust this off with a little what's called an egg wash. Okay, egg wash is a fancy term for egg and water. Give this the boot scootin' boogie. Add a little water to it. It's probably like a tablespoon. And by the way, I've seen people do, like, you know, brush it with flour, brush it with olive oil. I like the way an egg wash looks because it gives us this almost perfect brown color to your finish once it's done baking. So we're gonna do that. So again, it's not a perfect fold. We're just, look, I just want to get through it. Two important things. I like to season the crust. I know it's delicious. It's got yeast, it's got the sugar, it's got the olive oil. I'm gonna top it with the egg wash again, but some kosher salt. And then what's really important is you gotta let some vents out. Like, imagine if you're cooking something, the moisture's gotta go somewhere. If you don't cut like an X in the middle of it, or you don't put some vents over the cross, I've seen like an X, or I've seen 3 cuts, it will burst your seams. So I'm gonna put a little bit of kosher salt over the top, just because I like that saltiness on my dough. You know, dough can tend to be bland, but this ensures that it's nicely seasoned. And then I'm gonna take a knife and just give it a 1-2. 1 and a 2. And that's it. I'm gonna pop it into a 500-degree oven. It's gonna cook for 15 to 18 minutes. Once it's golden brown, it's done. Oh, parchment paper. I got a lot of parchment paper. What the fuck am I doing? This has been in for about 17 minutes. It's not perfect, but again, cooking is not about being perfect. It just has to be. And it's nice golden brown. Oh, look at this. Would you look at that? Wow. I mean, you can see, because we let it rise for a sufficient amount. It's fine. This is just a test. We're just testing. We're just testing the fire alarm works. But this shit looks delicious. We're gonna give it the test. So you can see, because I cut out those air vents and I sauteed those vegetables, there's no like major spooge or leakage. Here we go. We're gonna cut this in half. Wow, that looks incredible. Let's give it a taste. Let's see how it is. This is an everything calzone. tell you, that shit is delicious. You're welcome. And we're done.
I'm gonna lift it up.
No, do me a huge favor and fucking. What's this shit? Fucking. Christ almighty. Jesus Christ.
R is usually defined as a unit of surface area equal to 100 square meters.
Alexa, the fuck you talking about? Do you guys even know that making pizza dough is so easy? You're welcome. Fucking hooker. That is not large enough. That's what she said. Moist. 2 seconds. Quiet on the set for 2 seconds. Sheesh. Quiet on the set. Quiet on the set. Quiet on the set. Quiet. Shut the fuck up.
See, and you know you're not doing it right unless you're making a fucking mess. Oh yeah, just smell that sweet pork. Oh fuck yes. There we go.
What are you doing with my food?
Huh? What? Hey, quiet on set. Stuff it like a whore, Dad.